Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Wheels from West to East. Today I'm going to show you how to prepare this very traditional Bulgarian dish. It's a recipe of beans with sausage. I've been putting off this recipe for quite a while. I don't know why actually, because it's one of the most typical things that you can find in Bulgaria. Beans is a major part of the Bulgarian kitchen. And this is actually a dish that you can find in restaurants in Bulgaria. Well, not very expensive restaurants, but it is a real folklorish kind of dish that a lot of people enjoy. There are a couple of different types of beans recipes. One I've already showed you in the Christmas special, which is a baked version of it with beans and pickled cabbage. And this one is done in a cooking pan. It's a sort of a soup, as you can see. It has somewhat clearish liquid soup sauce if you want, but it's light, quite light actually. I like it a lot. The other one is a bit more thicker, much more heavier, maybe more adapted for the winter season, which looks a bit more like the baked one. So yeah, one thing that's important here is I guess the most important part of the Bulgarian beans dish is the herbs that you're gonna use. So you should really try and find them, because otherwise if you don't use these types of herbs that I'm using here, you'll just end up with I don't know, some chili beans or whatever other beans based dish, which is not really the same. It's not the same result, not the same taste. So this is very important. I'm gonna put the descriptions, the names and the links for Wikipedia at the description of this video for the herbs that I'm gonna be using, and hope you can find them. So yeah, that's it about this dish. As you can see, it's usually we usually have it with some hot peppers like this, or some fresh onions or something like that, something similar. Usually something which is more hot, like even chili peppers or something like that. So yeah, that's it. Let's move on to the ingredients. Alright, the ingredients for the recipe, they're quite similar to the recipe that I showed you during the Christmas season with the baked beans and pickled cabbage. So if you've seen that recipe, this will be kind of almost the same, with a couple of things missing. But anyways, you obviously need some beans. Pick the flavor that you prefer: red beans, white beans, large beans, whatever beans that you prefer. Some sausages. Again, you can use whatever you prefer. I'm using smoked sausages because they add the additional flavor to the dish, which is quite nice. I really like the smoky flavor. In the vegetables part, there's a carrot, an onion, and a pepper. You can change the color if you prefer other color peppers. You can also add hot peppers if you like hot food. Other than that, there's salt and some herbs, which I'm sure I'm gonna mess up the names of. So I'm just gonna put them in the description with links to the appropriate herbs, since they're not all that usual. I think it's a bit particular for the preparation of this dish. So as I did for the Christmas recipe, I've searched them, I've looked them up on the internet, and I'm just gonna give you the links with the information, and maybe you'll be able to find them in your local stores. And yeah, some olive oil, sorry. So yeah, this is it for the ingredients. Not that much, as you can see, but this is not a very rich recipe in terms of ingredients, so it's normal. So yeah, time for the first part of the preparation. Right, so the For the first part of the preparation of the bean soup, it all depends on the time that you have, but what you should start with is putting the required amount of beans in a cooking pan with a lot of water and letting them boil. Now, once they boil, you can stop the heat and change the water. Now, depending on the time that you have, you can repeat this process a couple of times. The goal is to eliminate some of the ingredients which cause bloating of your stomach and gases and all that stuff that are not all that nice with beans. Of course, also it depends on the age of the beans. The older they are, the more nasty they get, I guess. So if you know that these are fresh beans or something like that, you can just change the water once and leave it boil a second time and then just continue the cooking. So anyway, this is up to you, but do it at least once. So once again, put the amount that you want in water, let them boil, and change completely the water with fresh water and let it reboil once more. And then either you rechange it or you continue adding the remaining ingredients and continue with the recipe. Okay, now I've put the beans to boil for the first time. In the meantime, while you wait for them to get ready, you can use the time to prepare your vegetables. So go ahead and clean all the vegetables and chop them in small pieces that will go nice with the soup. Also, if you're using raw sausages or you just prefer, you can also pass the sausages in a frying pan real quick so that they cook somewhat. You don't have to cook them completely because you can always finish the cooking process in the soup. But yeah, it's up to you. If you do that, you can preserve the fat that the sausages will give. And that you will use, so that you can just use it with the soup. But if not, you can add some more manually later on. So yeah, that's it for now. See you in a bit. Alright, the beans have already boiled once, and as I told you, we've changed the water and replaced it on the heat so that it can start cooking. Now, for the second part of the cooking, you don't want it to boil very hard or something like that. So what I suggest is that you change the water and you leave it on the stove at medium heat with a cover, so that it can slowly cook. As you can see, I've already prepared the vegetables except the onion because I don't want to cry on camera. But I'm not gonna use them right now because beans tend to cook very slowly. So you can leave them for easily an hour, maybe more even, before actually starting to add any of the remaining ingredients, because all the fresh vegetables will cook much faster, and if you overcook them they'll get all squishy and not that nice. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave it on for about an hour or so, and then I'm gonna come back. One way to determine if it's about time to add the remaining ingredients to the beans is at some point of the cooking you can take one bean and squeeze it between your fingers. If it starts to be like squishy and melting, it's a sign that it's okay. If it's so hard and breaks in two instead of becoming like a paste or something like that, you should leave it cook for a while longer. And yeah, as I said, don't keep the heat high because it's gonna boil too hard and they might burn actually. So ideally this is the kind of dish that you can even cook overnight at very low heat. You can at some point drop all the ingredients and leave it in very low heat to cook for a very long time. But obviously we rarely have the time for this, so it doesn't matter. But still give it some time for it to prepare. And yeah, one last thing, I forgot to mention that one ingredient is tomato paste or tomato whatever you prefer to use, even fresh tomatoes or whatever. So yeah, that's it for now. So see you when it's time to add the remaining ingredients. Okay everybody, it's been about an hour now that the beans are cooking, and I think it's about time that I have added some of the remaining ingredients. So at this point I'm gonna add all the vegetables except the tomatoes. Tomatoes tend to cook real fast, so save them for the very last. They don't really need to cook at all. Usually just drop them right before it's done. So I'm gonna use the remaining vegetables. I'm gonna add the salt and all the herbs. Also, I'm gonna add I'm gonna fry real quick the sausages, and then I'm gonna add them with a bit of the oil that I'll be using for the frying part in the soup. Now, normally what I do and what I suggest you do is that if you're using sausages like that, you chop them in slices, in circle slices, and mix it all together. This way you kind of get more out of them, because you don't have to eat one whole sausage in one serving. It's kind of mixes all together and can be more economic. But for this recipe I'm actually going to use them as they are, because this is the default recipe and it's more aesthetic. So for you to get a better idea of the original, I'm gonna just fry them real quick as they are and not cut them. But yeah, I suggest that in your everyday cooking you do cut them in small pieces. So that's it. Now once I add all the vegetables and the salt and the herbs, then I guess you can leave it cooking for as long as you like from this point, because normally the beans are almost done now, so maybe 34 minutes, 30 or 40 more minutes will be enough for the cooking to finish. But as I said earlier, this is the kind of recipe that you can really take your time with and leave it on very low heat to cook for a long time, but that's up to you. So yeah, that's it for this part. I guess next I'm just gonna show you when it's done. Alright, and we're basically done. Now, at this point of the cooking, you have a couple of options. You can either leave it like that, in more of a soup form, which I prefer, or if you want to transform this dish into a more of a thicker kind of stew, you can prepare the same mixture that I used in the other recipe for the Christmas special, with flour and a little bit of butter and paprika. So you mix all that up in a frying pan and add it in. The amount that you want depends on how thick you want it to be. So it will become much more thicker with a sauce which is not really like a soup like this, and not clear sauce but really thick. But anyways, this is not the recipe that I'm showing you today. I prefer this version, the soup version. So that's it. So yeah, hope you like it and see you soon at What's to Eat.